Hello, hello, everybody. As you're entering the room, I am going to, you don't have to accept it, but I am going up. There's our host. I see him right there.
Haha.
I think that's him. Um, I'm going to be making everybody the option to be a panelist. The reason why I do that is so you can go on camera. I love seeing people on camera when I speak. And it also allows you to ask questions and go in the chat. Okay. So as I say that, whoever said yes to the panelist, if you can in the chat, really quickly tell me what your business is or what you want your business to be. Um, are you in business or not? So yes or no. And then what do you want out of this class? So my business is, hairdresser, landscaping, XYZ company. I am in business or not. And what I want out of this class today is I want to learn about or hear about X. And I'm going to try to personalize my discussion for that. So, again, if you don't have to be a panelist if you don't want, I am going to promote everybody that I can to panelists, accept it or not if you wish. And then in the chat, if you're open to it, let me know what your business is, what you want it to be, and what you want out of this class so I can try to personalize my discussion for you. Um, I do want to get started on time, so we are 12:30. I want to get started talking, do the presentation as fast as I can because I want to respect everybody's time because you are here on time. Okay, so thank you, Branson, for sharing. Branson wants to start. I don't know what permaculture is, design consultant, but I will Google that when I'm done. That's new, permaculture, design consultant. How to get started. Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Again, if anybody else that is, please share in the chat. Um, Mobile coffee. And thank you, Ebony. Mobile coffee. Awesome. And then again, Ebony, if you want to share what you want to get out of the class, that'd be great. Caleb, thank you for sharing. Sustainable laundry soap. Awesome. Get off the ground. That's two. How to get started and to get off the ground. Awesome. Brenda, organizing business. Jaden, thank you for sharing. Jewelry. And again, if some of you want to jump on here and also add what you want to get out of the class, that'd be great. Otherwise, I will assume it because most of what people want is all very similar and the same. So thank you, Branson, Ebony, Caleb, Brenda, and Jaden for sharing. Anna wants to do not in business. So Anna, skincare. No. Okay. Ebony, get on paper and get started. All right. Awesome. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to thank everybody for sharing. I mean, that's most, let me see if anybody else entered the room to be a panelist. What was that? Get away from me. All right. All right, awesome, great. So I'm going to get started. Thank you for those who shared. And again, everyone didn't get a chance to share yet. A lot of what I'm going to probably speak is going to be, come on, get out of the way. Sorry, I'm trying to make this thing I can't see. Get this out of the way. Slideshow. All right, awesome. So thanks everybody for attending. You are here at Simple Steps 1, which is pretty much basic startup practices, right? You want to start a business or you're thinking of starting a business and you want to learn more about what you should be doing and not be doing and how to do it, the right way up front and get started. So that's awesome. Thank you everybody for being here. Uh, for real quick, who is SCORE? If you don't know who SCORE is, maybe most of you or some of you might, some of you might not. SCORE is a nationwide nonprofit that has offices or agencies all over the country, and many of them just right here in North Carolina. It is a nonprofit, and in each chapter, they have people like myself. We are volunteers. We are volunteers. Some of the volunteers, the organization SCORE started with only retirees. I've been a mentor for almost 10 years now. So, a little bit before me, they opened it up to people who are not retired, and I'm one of those who's not retired, but has a lot of time to make available to mentor people who are in business or starting businesses. And so at SCORE, we have mentors all over the country, chapters everywhere. There's a lot of resources. You'll see some SCORE National has a lot of resources, templates, videos, and then the local SCORE chapter also on their website has a lot of templates and resources and videos and other classes that fill in things you want to learn about, whether it's financing, lending, legal stuff. They'll offer other classes. So tap into SCORE and the resources, tap into the SCORE National like you have, and the SCORE Local like you have to keep learning more. Okay. Um, my background, real quick. Who am I? I am your teacher today, teaching this class. Like I said, I've been a SCORE mentor for a little over 10 years now. My background is, and I'm going to tell you this, I am not here to get clients, but I tell you my background so you know where my knowledge comes from. And so my background is I am a financial advisor. I've been a financial advisor for over 25 years. As a financial advisor, I started at a big firm, and then over my career, I went from a big firm. I left that big firm and set up my own company with a partner. Had that relationship for 10 years. And that relationship actually went south in 2007. And I'm still in business. And with that past partner, we had up to 6 employees. Now me, I'm still operating, and I have 3. And the reason why I share that with you is a couple things. First of all, I myself have gone from big firm to independence, sole proprietor to an S corp, hiring, firing. How do you get clients? How do you grow a business? How do you grow a practice? And on top of it, in my financial planning firm, I am a holistic practice, a fee-based practice, and a lot of my clients who pay me are business owners. So I help a lot of them with cash flow planning, corporate structure, and all these discussions. And so and then back to me being in business, I still go to chamber events and network. And so I'm dealing with a lot of stuff that you all are dealing with as well. So that's my background. Um, Hope that helps a little bit. So I have nobody here slowing me down because I am a fast talker. But what I realize also, I am going to start my stopwatch so I can keep track of my time. So I know if I can slow myself time down because we also have the library here in attendance. And that is Christy who just waved her hand. The library in Charlotte has an awesome research, has an awesome resource for she'll do a better job at assessing your market and different segments of your competition or demographics of your area and who you might want to target. So she'll at the end they definitely have time to go over that resource, and so I want to make sure I'm finished and plenty of time to give her time. And so I'll keep peeking at my watch to gauge my time if I'm talking too fast. I don't have my people on my usually when I teach classes for my company, I'll have people in the back going like this to slow me down. But I'll use my clock also to make sure if I'm not talking too slow that I leave time for the library. All right. Awesome. And again, anybody, I'm open book. I wish, I look forward to SCORE getting back to doing these in person. Thank you, Branson, for going on camera. So you're right now my only person, so I can see if I'm making sense or if I see the gloss eye. That's why I missed the room. So, but anybody jump in, raise your hand. I'll try to check the chat. I usually have a moderator in here. I think he might be in the room. Um, but usually have a moderator checking the chat. So I'll try to check the chat for questions. You can raise your hand with the hand button on the bottom of your toolbar, and I'll stop and ask questions. And then if someone like Branson is on, I think you can unmute yourself and just jump in. If you are a panelist, you should be able to unmute yourself and just jump in and say, hey, Keith, hold on a second. I have no problem with you doing that. Okay. So as interactive as we can make it, I want to try to make it. All right. So let me keep moving on. So I told you all about SCORE already. But please, if you have not, I saw someone, want to get your ideas on paper, how to start, getting started, all these businesses, get yourself a mentor, right? There's no cost. You get someone like me, good or bad, just with a smile on my face, right? I have clients in my business and I have SCORE clients, all right? SCORE clients, I do the same stuff as my business clients, and that's what all the SCORE mentors do, right? And it's no cost to you, but will help you with your business plan, look at your financials, help you with sales and marketing, help you with anything you want to talk about, all right? So definitely get yourself a mentor. Um, Sometimes I had this open before, but on this website right here, there's a ton of resources, education, videos, and something you all can use to learn more about the questions that you had today. Okay. So get yourself a mentor, tap into the score.org. And again, even beyond a one-on-one mentoring, they have a lot of classes on top of this one that they will offer. Um, and sometimes I'll even email my SCORE clients, hey, here's a great class that based on what we're talking about. One was funding options. They just did a class on funding options recently. So tap into that as well. I mentioned SCORE throughout the country. But again, there's SCORE chapters just even all over North Carolina, as you can see. And here, of course, we're in Charlotte. But even today, SCORE opened up these classes to everyone in the state. So there's probably people here that are not in Charlotte. And if you're not in Charlotte, don't worry about it, right? Because there's mentors all over the state. All right, so let's talk about this. So what are you going to learn today? So what you'll learn today, we'll go over the myths and realities of being a business for yourself. What are some critical factors, right? To know what are your options. We'll talk about the components, sole proprietor, LLC, S corp. That's also down here, making it legal. Um, the whole business plan basics, and I'll get to that in a second. I'm going to circle back to that. At the end, there'll be a self-assessment um, where you can kind of judge where you are. And then when you meet with the mentor on your own, kind of pinpoint where you need to work. And then we'll talk about next steps. And again, when I talk about this one, the whole discussion today is pretty much your business plan. Okay. Um, and when I talk about a business plan, when I teach class, I kind of jump around a little bit, which is okay because we're here. And when we get to the business plan part, it kind of ties together. But this whole discussion is your business plan. All right. So how you going to sell? How you going to market? What's your structure? What is your purpose? That's your business plan. So you're going to want to be writing all this stuff down. That's kind of why I circled it to let you know. And I'll keep going back to that. Hey, this is part of your business plan. This is part of your business plan. And at the end of the day, also, I'm a keep it simple kind of guy. So as I talk about your business plan, keep it simple. I don't want to read a book. No one wants to read a book. I mean, again, I'm only one person, so but from talking to a lot of people, we all kind of feel the same way. Even your bank people don't want to read a book. So yeah, as I keep going back to the business plan, keep it short, keep it simple. What's your purpose? What are you trying to do? Who are you? And then yeah, here's my sales and marketing plan. Here's my financials, right? Short, sweet, and simple, bullet points and so forth. So that's why I kind of circled that because we're going to talk obviously about that a lot today. Um, the other thing also I will say is at the end of the day, yeah, is ultimately get yourself in a position with everything else, making legal ownership, where you can get out there and start selling and making money. All right. So let me keep going. Clear this. So what are the benefits being here today? Um, for some people, we had somebody, you're not going to get this all today, okay? But feasibility, right? You're starting. Someone had to get started, getting it on paper. I forget who it was. Was it organizing the Julia person said, thinking about it, right? So doing your financials, what is your plan? And letting people look at it will help you decide, oh, wait a minute, maybe I shouldn't launch right now, or maybe I need to pivot a little bit, or reassess how I'm going to, grow this business. Maybe I can't do it through funding, but I can grow it through reinvestment and profit. So you're not getting it all today, but you're going to start your feasibility plan. You're going to get through that decision-making process. Do you want to launch, or how you are you going to pivot how you launch? Um, and then what are the right directions, and then what's the information you need to get started and do your business plan. All right. So that's the benefit. You'll get a lot of that. You're going to start that foundation today. I already did this in the beginning, right? So I appreciate everybody who did share. Thank you. So what are some of the myths about owning a business and getting a business for yourself? Okay. Let's go over them a little bit. Myth number one, you won't have to work hard and put in long hours. That's not true. Now, that might be true for some businesses over time. Okay. Some businesses, no. I mean, I open up a XYZ business and the way you grew it, you're still doing the labor work, right? But some business people open up a business that's labor intensive and they grow it to the point where they can hire people that the business can run itself and they're not there, right? So then they can maybe work less hours. But in the beginning, you're working a lot of hours and you're working hard, okay? Um, but yeah, some businesses, I've gotten to the point where I can now structure my schedule more where I don't want to work Mondays or I have no meetings on Mondays or late Fridays. I don't do morning meetings, but I can afford now to do that. But in the beginning, I was working morning. Again, I'm repeating that topic, that point. But in the beginning, you're working hard and you're working long hours. Another myth is your product is unique and that you have no competition. Not necessarily true. And for most people, that is not true at all. But that's okay because if you operate right, set up your business right, and do what you're supposed to do, you will be better than your competition. And that might be one of the things that makes you unique. Okay. Now, some people do have a product that is unique, or maybe an offering that is unique. I know in my business as an advisor, what makes us unique is that we don't believe in active management, right? So we tell people don't stock pick and don't market time, but we have to work hard to communicate that message in our marketing, sales, and branding. But overall, we're not unique to the sense that there's 1,000 other financial advisors in the marketplace and tons of competition. Okay. So that's myth number two. So how do you differentiate yourself in that world and be successful? Myth number three is that you'll be able to deduct everything as a business and not pay taxes. That is not at all correct. Um, if anything, as a business owner, your deductions just reduce your revenue to reduce your profit to try to manage taxes. But if you're a business owner, you're not paying any taxes, you're probably not profitable. Okay. But yes, you could deduct things to minimize and reduce the amount of money in taxes you're going to pay. But that is a myth. No, you can't just write everything off and pay no taxes. That's not how it works. Um, Myth number four, as an owner, you're not going to have a boss. That is not true. It's true in a sense. You are the boss, but depending on your business, and for almost all businesses, there are going to be people that you have to answer to, or in a quasi way, act like a boss. Okay. But yes, you do have more freedom. But you'll learn more that there's lots of ways, depending on your business, there are things that you're going to find yourself in a situation where, well, you kind of have a boss or you can't do things where you want to do it because X, Y, and Z. All right. Um, and that applies to myth number five. You can do whatever you want. No, you cannot do whatever you want. Again, you're going to have vendors or suppliers, or if you're in a franchise, houses, or government or state are gonna, you can't always do what you want, how you want it. And so you do have, um, you'll have to learn how to kind of navigate through things based on that. But yeah, but on the flip side of it, yes, as a business owner, you have more freedom, but it's not always, you cannot always do what you want and how you want it as well. Okay. Just want to share that with you. And that's one of the myths. All right. Does all make sense so far? Pretty simple stuff. Great. Thank you. This stuff you always hear, the probability that you'll be in business 2 years from now is very high. All right. 76% success rate. But that's not the most important thing. The most important thing to realize is the next slide. That goes down to 50% after 5 years. Right. And why is that? Because again, it's in the beginning, it's you had to be consistent doing the things that made you successful in the first 2 years, or maybe the first 2 years you had enough of your own resources to get you through, and you didn't realize you weren't being profitable all along. Okay, but there's a lot of work, a lot of things you have to do, and you have to do it ongoing, because it's the success rate is very high or very low, excuse me, after 5 years. Okay, and you want to be on this side of the aisle, the 50% side, not this side of the aisle. All right. So what are some of the critical success factors? All right, I was just looking at my watch, just managing my time, so I apologize for looking down. Um, do you have what it takes to be successful? All right. And here's one where I say, be honest with yourself, because in anything, we all, I mean, you wouldn't be here if you didn't think you had these factors. But just be honest with yourself and look in a mirror and realize, well, maybe I don't have all this, right? But at the end of the day, do you have the education and experience, right? Um, mobile coffee, well, the organizing, the skincare, the design consultant, you all probably have experience in that business, right? The flip side of it is the way I always say, I'm trying to think if I can hit anybody here with it to be careful of, as I kind of use restaurant people as this example. Oh, I'm great at being this. But they never ran a restaurant or ran a business. So you might want to say, well, maybe you go work at a restaurant first and see how they run it, or be an assistant manager or something, or so forth. Or yeah, you're really good at making coffee, but that's why you're here, to be fair. But have you ever operated a business, dealt with payroll or managing employees, or sometimes I have people that are really good at, doing X, but they don't know how to sell. They can't get customers. And then, so the whole time in coaching and mentoring is, well, what are you doing to get customers? Like, are you going to chamber events? Do you know how? They were really good at their company, but they never knew how to sell, and they're having a hard time getting clients and customers and selling their product or service. Okay. Um, Now, as we talk about other things down the road, as I get to that, if you don't have experience in your field, or experience in operating, or experience in something in your business, well, then how do you address that? Do you go out and get that experience? And how do you get that experience? Can you maybe bring in a partner, which has those risks, or maybe someone who has that experience, right? And partner with that person. Or if you have the resources, can you maybe hire somebody to do some of that stuff where you're lacking? All right. I've got a question. Hold on. I made coffee at home and was going to take a barista class. Would that be good? Well, back to the experience thing. Edmund, you asked that question. Well, again, you have to assess your business. What do you need to operate effectively and get customers? But if that is a skill set that would make you better at making coffee, then yeah, I would say that'd be good. But then I also use it in this example as you learn a little bit later on, all the other hats you're going to be wearing, you're going to be doing a lot more things than making coffee when you own that um, mobile thing. And that's the stuff also where people don't have experience. Okay. And then it's, how do you get that experience? Is it, you got to get it, or a good thing, or do you go out and hire someone to do it? So that's kind of, hopefully that answers your question a little bit. Um, but yeah, if that helps you get better, without a doubt, for sure. Do you have a strong work ethic? Again, you wouldn't be here if you didn't think you had a strong work ethic. But again, back to that myth, if you thought, oh, I could open up a business and coast, that's not true. Do you have effective time management? You definitely have to effectively manage your time very well. Can you manage and multitask? Again, you will be wearing, I'll get to it in a little bit. You're gonna be wearing a lot of hats. And you're gonna have to be able to like multitask and manage your schedule. Um, because you can get distracted and off task very easy. Um, are you willing to take advice from others? Right? Again, I'm always asking for advice from others. So, but sometimes I have wholesalers and people in my industry giving me advice, and it's very good advice. Sometimes it's hard advice, it hits you. But sometimes it's like you got to take it because it's valuable advice. And sometimes you might take it. It's like, you know what? You're not going to take that advice because it doesn't fit you, right? Um, but I'm still always asking people for advice because it helps. And then again, the last one is, do you have adequate capital? Um, but sometimes if you don't have adequate capital for startup stuff or ongoing, through cash flow planning and other, you could sometimes reinvest income and revenue. And then sometimes with me, the adequate capital, I'll see a company or people they want to start and you see the plan, it's like, yeah, that's awesome. And you could definitely get there. But you know what? Where's the capital to come from to get there, right? And then and lending might not be an option. And a lot of times in the beginning, it's not an option. And sometimes, you can grow slow. It's not ideal, but how can you then get started, get going based on, and can you scale it down a little bit to here or to here? And then maybe if you, when you're as you're profitable, you're reinvesting. And then sometimes through planning, adequate capital sometimes could be, can you live off of what, if you're a dual income house, can you live off of one income? Right? Well, I don't know. Well, what does your personal financials look like? And maybe you can live off of one income, or how much revenue out of this business at a minimum. We don't want minimum, right? We want to make profit to make money to do all the other things you want to do. But sometimes as a startup, adequate capital could be, what is the minimum to supplement maybe your spouse's income and you can meet your household need. So the minimum does that, and then you work towards ramping up. And I'm getting deep into the weeds here, but that's also tying to other stuff I know we're getting to. Okay. But do you have all this adequate factors to be successful? Okay. And then you have to be consistent ongoing in operations to continue that success. Come on. Sorry, guys. Sometimes again, it's a pain in the butt to get you click. Okay, financials. Right, so that's what we're talking about. We're gonna do two slides. There's financials personal and then financials business. All right. So financial personal, like I said, is what do you need in your house? Again, you should know that, right? If you ask me right now, what's my minimum amount that I need to my house to live? It's pretty much $4,000 a month. That goes to my house, and then I supplement it through draws throughout the course of the year, and then certain things. Yes, I will pay certain, whatever's. But the point I'm getting at is, what is your minimum need at your house, right? So how much you want to success or not in your business. So if you have an idea of your personal, right? If you have it all written down and look at food and groceries, eating out, entertainment, auto insurance, yada yada yada, you can figure out how much a month you need to pay your bills. Okay. And then even on the business financials, you could then help you figure out, well, how much revenue do you need to get out to pay those bills, right? And then how much in the revenue side, how much coffee you need to sell? How many design clients do you need? How many organizing clients do you need? How many jewelry do you have to sell? And then even then, you can even help price your product and figure out how much you need to sell to get the revenue that you need to get to your house. Okay. But you got to figure out the house and then the revenue to the house to do more, right? Retirement planning, paying for college, and then buying cars and the fun stuff. But get an idea what your financials and personal, and then sometimes you might, at the minimum could be, yeah, you give up the vacation for a couple of years. You give up going to the Panther games. You give up X, Y, and Z, but you got to know your financials on the personal side and definitely on the business side, right? So back to that business plan discussion, right? This is part of your business plan. What are your financials? Okay. You need to be able to communicate to someone, whether you give me a spreadsheet, bullet pointed out, here's my financials. Here's how much revenue I need to make to meet, how much revenue I'm going to make. Here's how I'm going to make it. But ultimately, getting back to my world, right? Even as a mentor, even as my business clients, I need to see the spreadsheet, right? You know, some people do what I'm saying through QuickBooks, right? So if you're doing QuickBooks, same thing. The data goes in, you can run the profit and loss statement, which has a lot of those costs, right? But for me, I've already taken it a step further. I put it all on a spreadsheet. What are the costs, right? And then I track it. Every month I update it and I kind of monitor what the money is I'm sending towards all the different items to make, and then eventually mine goes out 24 months, right? And then there are templates on the SCORE website to do all this work that I'm talking about, right? So now, when I'm working with my plumber client, and they say to me, Keith, I'm hiring another plumber. Now, all we got to do is on their 24-month spreadsheet, add it and with all the new costs. I have a client who's an engineer. When he hires an engineer, we can put in there, can you afford it? Right? Well, I got to do another CAM with another software. And we now know all the costs to add on for another person, right? But the beauty of this is A, what is your upfront cost as you write it all down for your adequate capital to get started? And then adequate capital, how much do you need to keep operating? Okay. And then eventually, when you run it out and you track it, you can monitor, and then eventually and not eventually, I keep saying eventually, but you're also tracking revenue, right? So how much revenue needs to come in, and you're tracking it, and then you can kind of eventually forecast out. So I had was it my plumber client? Like they realized like 3 months of the year they're always dipped. So I've had clients we monitor, well, you have your slow time coming, right? So you have these good months, but don't forget those slow times are coming 24 months. You need to keep retained earnings and your savings. I know I'm getting deep into the weeds here. I'm big into cash flow. Cash flow to me is a critical component of operating because you have to get command. And when you want to grow and add and have all these discussions, you always need to look at the financials. So does that all make sense? I'll look at Brent, my one guy on camera. Does that make sense a little bit, or did I get too much into the weeds there? You can say I did. That's okay. Start writing it down. I can't tell how many times I have someone that didn't write it down, and the minute you write it down, people like me look at it and say, well, "What about this? What about that? You forgot about that." I had a lady recently didn't write it down. I'm like, "What are you doing with your cell phone?" And she's like, "I got my cell phone in business." I'm like, "Do you use it for business?" Yeah. Well, I'll dig back into the weeds here, but write it all down, the numbers, and then eventually you're going to forecast it out, and then you use it for ongoing planning. All right. So the personal and then the business. So now I'm going to transition to funding sources, right? So where are you going to get the money to fund your business, right? So the mobile coffee person, I'm guessing you got to buy something or outfit something that's mobile. Um, the sustainable laundry, you got to make the soap. Jewelry, maybe you're making jewelry, the skincare, you maybe buying product and design consultant websites. Again, liability insurance, all this stuff. So where's the money going to come from? Obviously, you've got personal savings. Um, Friends and family, obviously very risky, right? So friends and family gives you money, even if it's in writing or a loan and your business is not successful or you can't pay them as quickly, um, it can cause, a rift in the family. Um, Obviously, I'm a huge proponent of this one. Uh, I see a lot of business able to do this successfully. But that gets back down to that cash flow work. I have to see it and then show you how you can do it. And any mentor or any business person or accountant or financial person should be able to show you that kind of stuff. But revenue from the business is a great way to grow the business. Obviously, you can borrow. I will tell you a misconception, very common. If people think it's easy, it is not. Most banks, as I didn't think, Truist is one of the sponsors. They're a very friendly business lending bank. I've had a lot of positive experience also working with First Citizens as a business lender. I know True Lion is really good. Um, the bigger banks, again, not to be too negative, I think through COVID, they showed all along how they were not interested in working with small businesses because, my experience is the ones that were more easy to work with even my clients going for the PPP loans, was the True Lions, the Truist, the First Citizens. But even now, anyway, I got that grasp from that. But the banks generally want at least 2 years of revenue. Okay. Documented revenue. So as you're operating, even if you operate as a sole proprietor, you want to be running your Schedule C and you're operating it. And even then, they want to see they want to see the taxes. So, but at the end of the day, that's an option. That's not an easy option. And then the third one is credit card. Fourth one or fifth one, credit cards. That's not recommended because of the high. Um, but again, through financials, if someone wanted to do that, the key thing is just bookkeep it as a loan, and then a loan as you do the credit card loan to the company, and as you're profitable up here, um, take revenue to pay off that loan, and do it in a way you bookkeep it correctly so that you can reduce your income. Back to that reducing taxes, okay, kind of stuff. So that's how you can get money and sources. Any questions on that one? I usually have some questions there. Nope, good. Awesome. So what are your options? Right. So now I'm going to transition to what are your options for starting a business? And you all here, I think one person said they didn't start yet. But that being said, you know what? Okay. All right. I'm gonna give the pros, the pros and cons of all of these. So you can start a business from scratch, you can buy an existing business, or you can buy a franchise. Now there is overlap, right? As I talked about home and online, because these can overlap into these, or I should do it versus, right? You can start a new business or buy a franchise, and then it could be a home business or an online business as well. Okay. So we'll do the pros and cons of that, and then obviously you could be a nonprofit as well. So the advantages of owning, okay, the advantages of starting from scratch. It's your own business. It's your baby, right? You create the name, the logos, the design, the colors. It's all yours, right? You can do anything you want. The disadvantage is you're starting from scratch. So you have no customer base. Nobody knows you. You have no track record. Um, so it's a bigger risk per se. Okay. But there's a lot of beauty out of it and a lot of joy, right? Um, but then on those disadvantages is again, you start from scratch and take on a bigger risk. Uh, on the flip side of it, which is another thing you can do, is you can buy an existing business. Um, and what's neat about this one, interesting, is on the flip side of it. It's amazing how many business owners that I know that don't think about what I'm going to tell you all right now, which is the easiest way to sell your business is to have is meaning my point is there's a lot of people who want to retire or eventually retire that people like me are telling them, well, how are you going to transition out? And the best way is to find yourself a buyer years in advance or someone to maybe sell your business to, right? Because there's people like you who might want to do what you're doing, I tell them, and go find them, right? So what's the advantage of that? The advantage is you are buying an established business, established clientele. And if it's a good brand in the community, you're buying a known entity, right? You can review the financials, you can review the track record, which is also, well, on the flip side, the negative is, you're right, is they might have potential dangers and risks, which if you have to do due diligence up front, you hopefully discover those in the beginning. All right. Um, and the reputation might not be good, but again, you have to do your due diligence up front. And if it is all good, then that's irrelevant. Um, you might have employee issues, and there's no guarantee that success will continue. The one thing I will say here, if anyone ever is exploring buying an existing business, what I would recommend is that part of that transition is a good transition plan, where you don't just buy it and the owner just poofs away, right? Now, I know the owner wants to eventually poof away, but I had a landscaping business. He wasn't ready to retire, and I kept having this conversation. He was like, "Well, I don't want to just give it to someone that doesn't that do a bad job." I'm like, "Why don't you go find someone now who might want to buy it in 5 years or 2 years or 3 years?" It's like, oh, okay. And so now he has this person working with him who's now getting to know the clients, know the customers, and he's bringing them all out in the field, right? I had another client who had a soft wash or power wash business. He wanted out quicker. And so part of their deal was for the first year, he was going out on jobs with him. So he gave them a year of going out on jobs. And then for several years, he was going to continue to give them, because he kept getting calls. So he kept feeding them football leads. But the point is, you do want some relationship with that previous owner and have a transition where it is somewhat seamless. So you lose that, you minimize that risk of people like, well, I don't know you, I know that person, you know, kind of deal. Another thing you can do is you can buy a franchise, right? For almost every business in here today, the skincare, jewelry, organizing business. Not sure about the laundry soap, but I bet you there's a franchise out there with that. Mobile coffee, maybe. Um, Probably. Uh, and pharmaceutical. My point is, there's a franchise for everything. Right? What are the advantages? They tend to have a proven system. So all the questions, how do you market? How do you sell? How do I get customers? What software they use to manage this business? They will have that all for you. They'll provide support, continued support, and help. The negative is they might limit your territory. And then part of your financials, they're going to want a royalty. They might have contracts and so forth. But, hey, I'm having a room painted in my house this week, and it's a franchise called Richard's Painting. Didn't realize it. Kept seeing the signs. That's my son's name. I heard it. They do a good job in the community. Needed a room painted. Called them up. Turns out there's a Richards painting in Harrisburg, a Richards painting in Concord. I mean, I got the guy in Concord, right? But his name isn't Richard. It's Frank. So the point I'm getting at is there's a franchise for everything. The one thing I'll end on the franchise part is this. The one organization, there's two of them that are nationwide that I only know one name. I always forget the other. If you want to explore a franchise, there's a company called FranNet. And what they do, they're a consultant. They only get paid if you engage and buy a franchise. Okay. So they will consult with you and help you pinpoint franchises that fit your personality and fit what you're wanting to do and help you with all the due diligence. And then if you ever do partner with the franchise, then that's how they get paid, not by you, but by the franchise. Okay. So home-based business, what are the pros and cons of that? Obviously, convenient work location, your home, less overhead, your home, flexible schedule. This one, I will caution you. I don't like that they have it in here only because it's very risky if you don't do it correctly. There's a lot of rules. So if anybody does want to do that or think, oh, I'm just going to deduct my home space, just make sure you work with an accountant and that you do it correctly. Because you do add a lot of risk when you do that, tax wise, right? Um, and will and you expose yourself to an audit as well. Um, an advantage, you can hire all over the world. Disadvantage, um, is this one right here is a big one. I have seen businesses that are home based that get kicked out, right? Because the neighborhood doesn't allow it, the HOA doesn't allow it. Um, one of them in my neighborhood was a landscaping business. It was obvious he was operating a landscaping business out of his house. Got a letter from the HOA and had to vacate, and now he's got extra cost because I see all this stuff at a storage place. You drive by, you see their trucks, and instead of going to the guy's garage and loading and unloading, now they go to the storage unit to load and unload. And the trucks are all there parked at the facility. Um, Obviously difficult with financing, family distractions. That comes back down to that managing your time real well in the beginning and managing it. In addition to a home-based business, and like I said, some of this applies to the first three, right? You could start a business that's home-based or buy a franchise that's home-based, right? So um, there's some. And then the next one is online businesses. Um, Obviously low startup costs. People are now way more accepting to it. I'm one of those people that likes to feel and touch before I buy, but people are way more accepting to buying online. You can sell anywhere, um, and you're flexible. Disadvantages is low barriers to entry, meaning you have more competition. Customers have a high expectation, and there's no personal contact. So that's, a negative for, excuse me, some businesses, right? Um, and the last thing I will say, it's way more expensive. And this next comment applies to when I get to sales and marketing. It's way more expensive to have an online business and even to sell and market online. It used to be on Facebook, it was all free. And you could put a post, and if people liked and commented, 1,000 people would see it. And then after a little while, as Facebook started their promoted post, and they pretty much reduced where no one saw your stuff unless you paid. And then when you paid $3, they would show it to like 10,000 people. Now, if you pay $3, they show it to 100 people. Okay. Same thing with Google advertising. So again, the cost back to cash flow planning is still lower than print advertising. It's still cheaper than billboards. But that's just also the challenge for online is the cost to market, sell, and to do stuff online has gotten more expensive than it was just even 4, 5, 8, 9, 10 years ago. All right. And then the last way you can get in business for yourself again is nonprofits. I don't think I had any nonprofits in here. But yes, you can get government money, government grants. You have protection. You can't pay yourself a salary. But disadvantage, it's not easy to get money. Even Score is restructuring a little bit because of money coming from the government, right? So on the flip side of it, nonprofits have the same challenge as federal government, state government, local governments, community government changes things. Government money is much more difficult to get, right? So a disadvantage as a nonprofit that I do see very commonly, most people have a passion to serve, but all their time is spent raising money and they're not doing the thing they had a passion about because they want to be working one-on-one with the people versus, shaking hands and going to the chamber events and trying to, constantly raising money. But those are pros and cons a little bit of nonprofits. A lot of work up front setting them up. Now there are mentors that score with nonprofit background. So if anyone in this room wants to do a nonprofit, just reach out when you reach out to SCORE for a mentor. Just let them know that you're a nonprofit, and they'll connect you with a mentor with experience in that world. All right. Any questions on nonprofit? As I move, any questions on any of this as I keep moving on? All right. Awesome. So, what are some of the components of owning a business? So, here's what I said earlier. You are going to be wearing a lot of hats, right? So, right now, everyone in the room, you're the boss, you're the CEO, you're the owner, and then you'll be doing all the admin, right? But you're also all of this. Now, at times, eventually, you're going to be able to outsource, right? Can you afford to outsource? Now, what I will say, I'm a little bit biased, but most people will agree with me. Your number one job in the beginning and ongoing is sales. If you have no revenue, you have no business. So, how do you get sales? That's an ongoing discussion. Not you're not going to get all your answers here today, right? Um, and part of that, of course, is the marketing. So you're also the marketing person. So you're sales and marketing. Well, on top of that, you got to do the financials. You whether you're if you I mean a sole proprietor is easier, LLC is a little bit easier, but if you're an S corp or a C corp, that's more challenging and more work there. And that's when I especially would say you should outsource. My first place to coach people to outsource is right here. Okay. The bookkeeping especially. But you're doing that. You're hiring and firing. Again, you're doing the sales and marketing. Your fulfillment, right? My skincare, my jewelry. You got to fulfill the product. I mean, mobile coffee, you got to deal with, people complaining and so forth. Your facility is your mobile truck, right? Or your mobile cart. You're dealing with technology. So you have to be aware you're wearing all these hats, right? I bought a new laptop. My second screen, what? Oh, you can't see it. Wouldn't work on the laptop. So I was a little thing. We couldn't. I had to call them up. Couldn't figure it out. We had to go buy a new one, and there was a component that wasn't compatible. But also I was having internet problems. I had to get internet. My Zoom is working great. Why? Because my tech guy came in and worked on my internet. Because for years, for a while, my internet worked great, but on Zoom it lagged like crazy, right? And with some internet stuff, you had to change some wires, some cables. So yeah, my point is, you're wearing all these hats, and eventually you figure out how can now as I talk about outsourcing, back to my people who can't sell, right? Or revenue or growing slowly. Um, I had a client left corporate America, didn't know how to sell. So eventually we worked on how can you outsource? How can you outsource? Can you do commission-based selling, meaning hire people? Um, we ended up, what's that word? Consigning some of our product at places. So I'm going on a tangent, but how do you figure out how to sell and get revenue? All right. Hopefully all this makes sense as I keep moving on. I keep looking at my time. I want to keep going. It's amazing how many people don't realize all the hats that they're wearing. The funny thing is, real quick, I have a friend, my chiropractor, who I met many years ago playing racquetball. He had his own practice. And then after a while, many, many years went by, he's like, Keith, I just want to see patients. So he cut it all out. Cut it all out and went and worked at another chiropractor who just gave him a spot and all he had to do was see people. And then about 5 years after that, he said, you know what? I'm tired of doing this for somebody else. I went out and I want to do all this again. And he's doing it all again. So again, it's a lot of work. That's the point. All right. All right. So now I'm going to do marketing and branding and sales. All right. They all connect. Right. So how will you, again, the business plan, right? We talked about it in the beginning. I kind of talked about that right here. So again, who are you? What's your purpose? What are you trying to do? And then how are you going to sell and market your service and product? Do not write a book, right? You can just bullet point it, right? You know, but where are you going? What is your strategy to get design clients? Um, you know, the mobile coffee, do you have to, like the mobile, I don't know if it's the same thing, so I'm not being fair, but I know the mobile food trucks, right? They will tell people where they're going to be, right? I'm going to be here tonight, or I'm going to be there. So how you going to get out to people where you are? How you going to get out, your organizing business or sell your jewelry? So how you going to, you know, promote your product and your brand to the community and to the marketplace? What is your strategy to do it, and how you going to do it, right? And as I say this, you know, whether you learn it from your mentor, I am very big in getting involved in peer groups or business groups. So, I'm tomorrow, I'm in the Cabarrus Business Network, and we meet twice a month, and we're meeting tomorrow. And there's, you know, 24 other people in that group, and most are business owners. Uh, and the point is, and some work in sales at companies, but the point is, everything I'm talking to you about today, I know Cabarrus County has Cabarrus Connections that meets twice a month that I'll also will attend. And the point is, we'll have roundtable discussions, but I'm always talking to other business owners and other people. The stuff you're learning today is you always want to ask, well, how do you do this? What are you doing? What worked for you? And so forth. And then when you do it, be consistent, um, and do it ongoing. Uh, and that's all. That's my soapbox on that part. Is you're always learning. You're always building on what you're learning today. And I myself am always doing and learning. And yes, it gets more systematized. You learn what works and what doesn't work for you. Right? How you get a brand. So are you consistent, right? In your message, in your identity, and in your advertising. Um, back to is there uniqueness in your practice, um, in your skincare or your organizing, and then how you going to communicate that to the public through, is it, social media, print advertising, one-on-one discussions when you go out to the chamber or your peer groups or networking groups, um, social media, how are you going to communicate that? What is your identity? And so forth. Okay, that's your brand, um, per se. I hope again, I'm not again. I'm just, what you got to do. I'm not a branding expert per se, but I know if you ask me with my company, do we have a brand per se? Um, I could articulate it. We don't believe in stock picking or market timing, and our brand is more holistic at the doctor's office. Is that a brand or not? It identifies, and that's how we communicate to the marketplace, how we're different than other advisors, right? So how you going to brand yourself in these two worlds through your marketing, um, your image, in your product and service with who you are to the public, all right? And then do it consistently and ongoing, and don't just give up on things right away, all right? So what is, back to sales, it's a broken record here, but how are you going to contact and connect with customers? And then for me, multiple ways, right? And I know whether it's social, right? It's hard to write on this stuff. Social, um, my company does events, right? Whether it's in person or online, right? Print, right? Chamber, networking, all these things. And they all tie together. And here's again where I go a little bit on my own one bias. They all tie together. And when I say don't give up right away. And then yes, what are your measurables? Okay. How are you measuring success or failure? Now, different people will tell you different things. Some people and some products, right? Coffee is how many coffees did you sell? Okay. Um, but like, for example, uh, like some people, like for us, when we do our social media advertising, our success or failure isn't measured on how many clients I get through that one promoted thing. I don't really look at certain things as me getting clients as part of my, like branding and sales and marketing. My point I'm trying to get at is I've had people who have, through my social media, responded to an event, and now I have their email. And then through my email marketing, we are very big on education. So we do a lot of education emails. And then, yes, we will promote our classes. So I've had people who have registered for an event. I had a client, in my own personal practice who registered for an event through Facebook did not attend. 4 years later, I got an appointment on my calendar. I'm like, who is this person? Well, it turns out they've been seeing getting our emails since they registered for that event for the past 4 years. And when they had a financial question and need, they set an appointment on my calendar. So if I had stopped doing, and we still do so, meaning if our measure of success, if I did it by sales, that event got me no, that promotion got me no sales 4 years ago. And I only got, I think in that one, two people who registered for an event. And I think one showed up or none that time. But to me, it was a success because that ad had a lot of activity. And I saw all the activity on my Facebook page, on my website, and then I got another email all ramp up. And I know doing this for a really long time, it always results in me eventually getting clients. Now I'm also, and so that again, I hope that makes sense for everybody. It's multiple ways that you're going to connect with these people, your brand and what you're trying to sell and what you're trying to do. And then your sales is where are they? Right? The library will share some of that at the end. And then how are you going to present? What's your process? What's your system when you get that meeting? You know, how are you going to engage with that client? What is your process? What is your system to show them why or they should hire you or buy your product, which is close, right? And then how you're going to fulfill it and process that. All right. That's sales. Okay. And then eventually, someone like me, how are you gonna do that? Can you partner with people? Can you, if you're not good at sales, can you outsource some of that? Where can you get training for sales? Where can you get confident in sales? Some people I say, well, go to Toastmasters. Toastmasters, you don't like to talk, go to Toastmasters. Toastmasters is a group that you meet once a month and you learn how to speak and talk and get in front of a room. So again, learn that skill is my point. All right. And then this comes back down to you have the skills, right? If you don't have the skills, how are you going to get them, right? So I've hit this one a lot already this meeting. So unless you all want to read it, I'll move on to the next one. Um, I don't think I skipped any points out of here. Yeah, I've been saying this the whole meeting. So yeah, if you don't have the skills, get them or figure out a way that either could in your financial afford to hire somebody or maybe a strategic partner or something to get that skill, right? As far as sales marketing, again, I always forget what score trying to get out of this one, but yeah, what's your niche? In your business plan, who is your competition? Um, and then what are they doing? And then yes, how can you professionally differentiate yourself from them? Whether it's in your sales and advertising or marketing or verbally. Okay. A great example is Edward Jones is a great company. Um, and I know they're prevalent. However, I will professionally and positively say how I'm different than them because they are a great company. They're a great fit for people, and they care of their people. They just don't do certain things the way that I would do them, right? And so how do you do that? And so how do I know that? Because I see and I research how they operate, and so I know how I'm different. So you want to do that for yourself, learn your competition, be better, learn how you can distribute. And I'm not sure what they mean by merchandising your product, but again, it's all about selling your product, branding your product, and then communicating to the people why they should buy it or hire you for that service. Okay. And then doing it consistently, right? That 2 years versus 5 years. How do you price your product? Obviously, consumer reaction is a good way to do it. Right? If you keep telling people X and no one hires you, you might need to lower your price. On the flip side of it, um, yeah, you could be charging not enough. Um, what are you going to charge? What's your competition charging? And then, if you're doing credit cards, you get a discount. Are you going to offer like the jewelry person or coffee people? Are you going to offer discounts or coupons or incentives for them to come? I'm a huge believer in that stuff. So what are you doing to get people out? The one thing I'll say about pricing too, back to the financials, your financials will be a great way to help you also price your product and service, right? Back to I need this much revenue. So how many clients or products do I have to sell to get it? Now, you don't want to always drop your price to be the cheapest. I'm not saying that, but sometimes it's like, well, you're charging X, you don't want to go down here because can you afford to charge Y? And then maybe as a startup or beginning, you might get more clients here. And then eventually you can ramp up your cost to here when your revenue is good to meet all your needs. So there's a lot of work you can do on pricing when you have your financials done. All right. Any questions so far? Nope. Perfect. Again, I've been hitting this already, right? Just, yeah, you do want to have an idea of your competition. What are they doing? What are they providing? What are their strengths? Is there a weakness? And then if you can professionally, articulate that. I do that very well. I professionally articulate. I've had other advisors get mad at me because I professionally say they're speculating and gambling with your money because we don't believe in stock picking, right? But I get a lot of clients in the public that way because like, what do you mean? And then I said, well, there's active management and passive management, right? Oh, so, again, how do you find that weakness and then professionally articulate it to the customers where, you know, you're doing it in a way where, yeah, that advisor wasn't happy because I taught someone that they can have a choice. Anyway, I digress on there. And then what your suppliers doing, and then what other businesses are in your area. And some of this stuff, you're going to get really good resource from the library when she talks when after myself. Oh, all right. All right. Sorry, library. I'm almost at the end here, but this is an important part. I'm at 58 minutes. Um, so keeping it legal, right? So this is I usually get a lot of questions here, but I got some how to start. I didn't get to keep it legal. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. So I'm going to keep this one. I'm good at this one. I'm going to keep it short and sweet. All right. Most people start here or maybe here. Very common, I will see people start here also. But most people do start right here. But when they understand why, they will go to an LLC. Okay. These two entities are almost very similar. The difference is you get liability protection here that you don't get in the sole proprietor. All right. That's my quick, simple thing there. Why would you want to go from a sole to an LLC? Primarily, you want when you really want or need that liability protection up front, right? Which means in an LLC, if you make a mistake or you don't make a mistake, but someone sues you and you lose, they can't get your house or your 401k, right? As a sole prop, they can. All right. So most people start here or LLC. They go to LLC for that liability protection. I will say if you are an LLC, in order to keep the legal liability protection, you need to keep everything separate. So if you're an LLC and you're mixing personal money and business money together, then you just lost your LLC license. So take the LLC document, go to the bank, and get a separate corporate account. Money flows there, and then you move it to your personal for when you need the money in the personal. Okay? If you have a credit card, get a separate credit card. If for some reason I had a client that Keith, they won't give me a business credit card. I say, well, do you have two personal credit cards? They said yes. Okay. Now identify one as your business and one as a personal, and then use them separately. Okay. The next thing I'll say, education wise, I really don't see many people doing this anymore. I'll explain in a second. But the next evolution is going to be your S Corp. Why do people go S? I am an S is that when you're making at least 80K in profit, some accountants will say more. They'll say 80 to 100, right? I've actually, as an advisor, have gone this route for people in about at 60 profit because A, we knew they were going to have big jumps in profit, or because it was on their spouse's income. But the main reason why you're going to go from here to here, just to keep it simple, is tax planning. That's my little legal, and I'm not a disclaimer, I'm not an accountant, I'm not a CPA, I'm not an attorney, but I know these things very well. Okay. So the main so but yes, seek advice from your accountants and your attorneys when you do these things. Okay. That being said, the, from my experience and my knowledge, which I know very well, the biggest reason you jump from an LLC to an S is that tax planning. Okay. There's more work, a little more work with it. So there, you have to have two separate tax returns. So there's an extra cost there. And that's what I tell people I would not do an S Corp without a bookkeeper. Okay. And that's an extra cost there. Right. But that's my crash course on corporate structure. Any questions on this one? All right. Perfect. I'll say, was that helpful? And again, Branson, you're my only guy, so I'm assuming yes. So thank you. And you're gonna probably say no to me anyway. And next time, Branson will say, I am never going on cam again. But thank you. And there might be more people on camera. For some reason, it's only showing me two people. So I know there's a way I can change the gallery, but then I can't see my screen in the presentation, so I apologize. All right. There you go. I think because this slide is new, I wonder if someone has scored either I'm really good or they kept hearing me do this presentation because this is a newer slide. Keep it simple, sole prop to a partnership, and then the next level, it's right there. That's exactly what I just said. So perfect. All right. Um, Government regulations. Yeah, just be compliant. Based on your business. The coffee shop, you might have different licenses that you need, different counties and city ordinances you got to comply to. The laundry soap, you might have federal things you got to comply to. Um, I know me as a financial advisor, I have to comply with um, the SEC in North Carolina. They're regulatory bodies over me. I have to comply with labor laws. I have employees. I have to deal with this. So just be legal and compliant with everything that you're doing and making sure in your business if there's industry or specific stuff, you're doing that as well. Okay. And we are towards the end, I promise. This builds into cash flow planning, um, uh, but also as a business, just make sure you have all the correct insurance. Um, the one that I see people ignore, I don't know, even though you have liability protection as an LLC, you still need to have you still should. In my industry, I'm required to have errors and omissions. So some industries you're required to have liability insurance. Regardless, you should have liability insurance. So reach out to your auto and your property and casualty professional. So your auto and homeowners agency, that's property and casualty. They will usually have a commercial rep in that office, and they will be able to uh, provide for you in shop liability insurance. Obviously my bias there is I like brokers. So yeah, Nationwide, State Farm, Allstate might have liability insurance, but I like to work with brokers. So whether it's out in Cabarrus, whether you go to McMillan Insurance Agency or Trey Signer or there's all those independent people, and they can shop all kinds of liability insurance. Um, but make sure you have liability insurance. If you're using your car for a business, make sure your auto insurance person knows. Um, because there's you need to have a rider on your policy because you need because if you are doing something in your business and you don't have that extra rider on that policy, your auto insurance might not cover um, that. If you have employees, you might need to have workers' comp. How you going to draft health insurance for yourself? Are you going to be an individual market? Go on your spouse's plan. This stuff is for people who have employees. Like in my business, we have life insurance on me. So if I die, there's life insurance that goes to the business, and then the business will not have any interruption. And then also they can then take the life insurance, my company, and pay off my spouse. So there's all kinds of stuff there. You also got key employees. I have some clients where I have a key employee, so we have life insurance on them. So if they die, there's money infused into the business to replace that key employee. So there's all kinds of stuff, insurance. That this is detail stuff, but I actually had a plumber recently. I went to a class and said, Keith, went to this class and they talked about key man and buy sell. I'm like, yeah, I've been talking to you about that for several years now. Do I need to do that? Well, yeah, eventually we need to get some buy sell, and that's what that all is, right? Right, that's what that is right there. So just be aware of all the stuff you have to be doing. If you have any facilities, so like your mobile coffee might have a facility, you have to insure that. I know I own my building, my office. I have to have insurance on that. So just be aware there's a lot of insurance considerations as well. Um, um, and here we go. Yep. So business plan. I have already talked about business plan basics through the entire meeting, right? So encourage as a view, foundation, powerful tool, communicate your ideas. Do not, my bias, do not write a book. I think you can have one page for each thing. So therefore, I should have, I think, 4 or 5 pages. That's it, right? And bullet points. I love bullet points, right? Even back to communicating ideas. When I do emails, even my staff, I learned for years. I bullet point my emails to people because no one reads your emails. If it's a paragraph, they're not reading the entire paragraph. And if there's 2 points in that paragraph or 2 things I'm asking the client to do or 3 things, they're missing at least one. But when I bullet point it, they don't miss them. So again, I like that same concept in a business plan. Right? That's just me. Right? And then here's components, just different sections, your financials, table of contents if you want to put it in there, summary, who you are, what you're trying to do, your purpose. And the last one I have on here is start building your team. Um, do you have a banker? The relationships now, what banker, who you're going to bank with. That was really valuable again during COVID. The people that didn't have a bank relationship weren't getting help. Why? Because the banks are so busy with their customers existing, they couldn't help non-customers, right? Do you have an accountant or a bookkeeper that can help you with that stuff when you need it? Who's your insurance agent? And then do you have a mentor? Someone like myself, um, and then so forth. So that's that part. And then this is the self-assessment you're going to get in an email. You're supposed to afterwards from SCORE. You just judge yourself where you're at in all these topics, these subjects, and then work on it with yourself or with a SCORE mentor, and any other mentors that you might have. All right. So that is my part. Your homework is start your business plan, pretty much, or start communicating your ideas to somebody and start, if you're operating, just keep building on what you're learning today. Yeah, I don't think they're doing 2, 3, and 4. I don't think Score does these anymore. I thought they took this slide out, but if they do start offering what this class did today was actually an overview of all of these. So they might even have these templates on the website and eventually bring these back in some form. Okay. But that's why they have next step. That's why they had it at next steps. Right. So here's a national, and they usually said they're supposed to be sending this deck out afterwards. But I'll just, if you all want to screenshot this or what have you, that's the Score National the website shot. And then you see on my screen behind it is the local address, and then and then finally you'll get a survey from SCORE to let them know how we did. And then, like anything else, let me know how I did. Let us know how we did today. If we can improve, let us know what we can add. And the things that we did today that you liked, that were good, just let SCORE know. All right. And that's my part. So thank you, Christy, for being patient. So um, again, and we'll still get everybody done by 1:30, hopefully. If not, Christy's got a great presentation about a resource that SCORE has available. Um, and
Let's see
so
here.
before that, did anybody have any questions for me before she starts? All right. Awesome.
You'll just need to turn sharing on for me.
Oh, I didn't?
I
I,
guess if I'm co-host, yeah, then I'll
yeah,
be
I
able
just
to
made you
share.
co-host.
Yeah, perfect.
Yep.
Yay! All right, here we go. Everybody see my screen? Okay, very good. Well, thanks so much. I appreciate the opportunity to get to share what the library can offer you so far as um, business resources to help you get started with your business. My name's Christy Buchanan Wellman, and I'm an adult services librarian here at Charlotte Mecklenburg Library. Um, so what I'm here to do is to offer you, to let you know what resources are available to you. That uh, Many of these resources are available to you no matter whether you live in Mecklenburg County or not. If you live outside of Mecklenburg County, I'll try to highlight those resources that you could access from any of the libraries within the state of North Carolina. But I'll also highlight which ones are just specifically to our library, so you can determine whether you would like to purchase an out-of-county library card if you think it's worthwhile. An out-of-county library card for us would be um, $45 a year, and that includes you and also everybody in your household. So it's not just you personally. But so I'm going to try and help fill in the gaps here. Does your business plan have gaps? The library has resources with data that you can use to help fill those gaps, and you've already paid for it with your library card. Let's take an example. I'm going to use a pet business as my example, and we're going to walk through the process of the resources that we have here at the library. First one is, if I was going to open a pet supply store, I'd need some data. Um, do you have a pet? Hands up. This is a market survey. Where do I find that? We have a wonderful resource called ABI Inform. It's available through NC Live, which is a resource that's accessible through all public libraries within the state of North Carolina through nclive.org. You would just access it with your local library card. Inside of ABI Inform is a resource called the Dun & Bradstreet Industry Profile. So you could go in and pull up your business, your industry, and determine, okay, what's the lay of the land here? And here's an interesting statistic I could add to my business plan. 70% of households in the United States have at least one pet. So they're going to need help with that and keeping their pet healthy and happy. Now, when I'm starting my business, beyond just the industry profile, I'm going to need to know, well, where are my competitors? Right now, if I was going to set up a business inside of Mecklenburg County, there are 269 businesses in Mecklenburg County that are already selling pet supplies. Well, how do I find that out? There's a wonderful resource called Data Axle Reference Solutions. This is also another resource that's available to you no matter what county you live in. Oh, and don't panic. I'm going to give you an info packet at the end of my presentation in the chat window, so you'll get tip sheets and everything I'm covering today, plus a copy of my slides. So you do not have to write fast and furiously. You'll get a copy of everything at the end. So do not worry. But how do I find out who my competitors are? How do I find my customers? Data Axle Reference Solutions is a wonderful way that you can do that. So again, I can plug in my parameters inside of Data Axle. I can put in my SIC codes for my particular kind of business, or even I can just use yellow page keywords. I can narrow it down that way. I can narrow it down by geography to a specific area around where my business would be. You could also use this if you for potential clients. Maybe you're a wholesaler and you want to know somebody that is in your area to potentially sell to. It goes both ways. So here we've put in we put in our search parameters, and what Data Axle does is it pops in a heat map, and it shows you where all of these competitors are within the areas of Mecklenburg County, because that was the search that we did. But even with that being said, there are spaces in Mecklenburg County where there is not a pet supply store nearby, and most people like to shop wherever it's close by for convenience. So, I mean, we know where our competitors are. We also need to know where our customers are. So, how do we find that out? We have a wonderful tool here at Charlotte Mecklenburg Library called Simply Analytics. And what Simply Analytics does is it allows you to, by map, tells you how to quickly zero in on the areas that for where customers spend the most on whatever it is that you're trying to supply them with. So in this particular map, it shows you where in Mecklenburg County people spend the most money on their pets. And this is done by survey. You can see over here with the key in the upper left-hand corner, it shows you, of course, the darker the color on the map, the more they spend on pets. So, and this is actually done a little bit more closer in, not even by zip code, it's done by census tract, so you could really zero in on where it is. So in 2022, using Simply Analytics. Oh, and I should say, Simply Analytics is something that is a Charlotte Mecklenburg Library exclusive resource. So it is something to consider if you are not a Charlotte Mecklenburg Library resident. There are some alternatives through NC Live. One is the Social Explorer that's on there, and also the State Data Center. But you're not going to be able to zero in quite as nicely as you can with Simply Analytics to match up where your customers are versus your competitors. But according to this example, in 2022, people in Mecklenburg County spent almost $500 million on pets, and these folks spent almost $35 million on pet services. So what does this mean? What's the big picture with all of this? So $500 million in sales in Mecklenburg County just for pet supplies, 70% of households equals almost 300,000 households in Mecklenburg County. We know that there's about 270 competitors, but evenly spread out, divided between all of them. That's almost, 1.5 million per competitor. So there's money to go around. You're serving over 1,000 households per competitor. And you can get a nifty list of businesses nearby to invite to the grand opening to let them know that you're there. So you can take Simply Analytics and Data Axle and narrow down to the areas of town where there's high spending and low competition. So also you can, if you really want to toy around in Simply Analytics, if you just go in and play with it without creating an account, it's not going to save your work, but it gives you a way to play with it. To save your work and to build something for your business plan, you would want to go in and save it before you downloaded your results. Likely areas to consider might be more details about age groups, education, race, language, housing. That helps what kind of advertising you want to reach to access the customers you're trying to get to. All right, so we know where our customers are. We know where there's potential places to put our business where we're not directly competing with somebody else and we could serve our clients. So once we've determined that, what to say? There are two really nice resources to help you. You would want to pull articles from experts to give you authority on your postings. Both of these are available through NC Live. So even if you're not a Charlotte Mecklenburg Library customer here in Mecklenburg County, you can access these through NC Live. The first one here is Masterfile Premier. The other one is ProQuest Central, and both of those will give you really nice authoritative postings to put in your marketing and advertising to share. Um, Also, you want to keep up with your local business news. Here at Charlotte Mecklenburg Library, we're going to subscribe to our local business resources. If you're in a different area, whether it's Raleigh or the Triad or whatever, your local library is going to subscribe to your local business resources. So for us, that would be Charlotte Business Journal, Charlotte Observer, but your local library is going to subscribe to their local papers at their area. Another Charlotte Mecklenburg Library exclusive is maybe you need to brush up on some training on some specific, those different hats that were mentioned. Maybe you're a little rusty in some of those. We have two really nice resources, LinkedIn Learning and also Universal Class, and both of those will give you training on all different kinds of skills that are needed, whether that's IT, whether that's, you know, even if you wanted to put your hand into accounting or whatever, entrepreneurship, whatever it is that you feel a little rusty in, those are available. Um, a non-Charlotte Mecklenburg Library resource that maybe you need to brush up on some Microsoft Office skills might be GCF Learn Free. That is a free resource. It's available online. You can just Google that. You don't even need to have a library card for that, but it's not going to have the variety of resources or the focused topics like you would see in LinkedIn Learning, especially for business or Universal Class. Universal Class is nice. If you completed the course there within a 3-month period, you'll get what's called continuing education credits. If you were trying to use that towards some sort of degree, you would want to reach out to the institution that you're trying to get the degree from to see if they would accept these continuing education credits. Not all of them do. But again, these are Charlotte Mecklenburg Library exclusive resources for LinkedIn Learning and Universal Class. Well, and also staying in the vein of advertising, instead of looking just for individual customers to send your advertising to, we have the Gale Directory Library. Again, that's a Charlotte Mecklenburg Library only resource, and you could pull up the Encyclopedia of Associations for your area, depending on maybe if you're in a pet supply business, you want to know like area organizations for different pet breeds, or maybe there's competitions for stuff for different pets that you'd want to market to, or festivals or whatever. This would be a nice way to zero in on that and give a targeted a targeted marketing burst to that group and let them know that you're opening a new business. A way that you can get a nice review, we do have book a librarian business research one-on-one sessions that are available one-on-one. These are video calls, and you will connect with time with the librarian, and they'll help walk you through the resources just like I'm offering today, with the resources and tools to help you build your business plan. So if you want a little bit more in depth on what I'm covering today, you can sign up for one of those through the library's website through our calendar. Also, you knew this was coming. This is a library. You knew that we were going to be talking about books, 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 because we are a library. Um, so NC Live has a wonderful resource called Gale eBooks, and this is one of my favorites, and I want to share it with you, so I'm going to pull it up so you can see it. The Gale eBooks is available through NC Live, but it's also available through our library as well. So I'm going to show how you could access it through NC Live. So whether you're in one of our surrounding counties, you could access it that way, or whether you're in Charlotte Mecklenburg Library. So I'm going to pull up my share screen here, and I'm going to pull up my window. Here we go. Can everybody see that okay? Can you see the NC Live logo there on the screen? Okay, so if you were outside of Charlotte Mecklenburg Library, you could just type in nclive.org. It would prompt you to choose your library and put in your card number at that point. And then from there, what I would, you can either limit it by topic, like I could just check off business and management if I wanted to see just these here. It's under the resources tab at the top, and I could just choose browse all databases if I wanted to. Or I could just see the whole list if I uncheck everything and I'll see everything that's available with my library card. But the one I want is called Gale eBooks. So I'm going to click on G. It's going to roll me down. Bam, here is Gale eBooks. And at that point, you're going to see a window to log you in. Since I'm inside the library, it's not going to prompt me for my card number. But if you're accessing remotely, at this point, this would be where it would prompt you for your card number. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll down a little bit here to the business category. And here's a wonderful business plans handbook. And this handbook, about every 2 or 3 months, they come out with a new issue. And these are actual business plans from small businesses. So maybe you're hitting a roadblock with like, I just need a template on how to build my business plan from a business that's like mine. This, I'm not trying to, duplicate what Score is doing. This is just, these are actual live businesses who are in business in North America. These are successful businesses that are out there and in the world right now. So I could, instead of you can see that these volumes have been coming out for a long time. The latest one here is from 2025, volume 62. But I could just search within this series right away. And since we're going with the theme of pet supplies, I'm just going to put in pet stores, pet supplies. Click submit. And bam, it's going to pull up all of the resources. Here's a dog treat business, online bird producers retailer, and each one of them is going to show you how the business plan from this business. It's actually a business. So I'm going to click on dog treat business here. And it'll scroll down. I've got my executive summary. Here's my industry analysis over time, dog versus cat treats. You've got all kinds of charts and graphs that makes your business plan look nifty, your market analysis, products that they sell. Um, so it's got everything laid out. So, that way, even if yours is not the same, it's a whole lot easier to write from an outline than it is to look at a blank page and go, oh gosh, what do I write about? So, again, I really love the Gale Business Plans Handbook, highly recommended. I'm going to close out of this one. There's another, we have other resources that are super nice. I don't think anybody was a nonprofit today, so I'm not going to talk about nonprofit resources. So I'm going to try to stick as much as I can with things that you can access from anywhere within the state. The next one I'm going to do is called Hoopla. And from Hoopla, we have a large, robust nonprofit business collection here. So let's see, let me go back up to H. Sorry about that. And from there, I'm gonna search once it loads up. I'm gonna click on Explore Hoopla, and then from here, I'm gonna do search for business startup, if I could spell. And okay, just from search, there's 296 hits on business startup that you can immediately access and check out. The nice thing about Hoopla is that it's instant access to these resources. Here's one on soap and candle making for our soap maker. All kinds of startup kits and everything, and these instantly available resources, the way they limit your access is that you get so many tokens per month, and then once you've exhausted those, when you return items, then I think at the beginning of the next month your tokens are refreshed and you can check out more resources. So that's how they limit folks. We also have another nice resource that is exclusive to Charlotte Mecklenburg Library, and that one is called Overdrive Libby. I'm going to toggle back over here to the Charlotte Mecklenburg Library resources. Let me come over here. We have an alphabetical A to Z resources list, so I'm just going to scroll down to Overdrive Libby so you can see it. And at this point, when you're accessing it through the library, when you click Access Now, this is where you'll see that NC Live logo to pop in. Since I'm inside the library, you don't see it. It just automatically rolls over. And then under Collections, we have a section for business. When I click on business, again, all kinds of resources. These tend to be your, you know, bestsellers that you might see. Um, so you might, these are ones that are available to borrow, but the way they limit access is that we have so many digital copies, and then when those are checked out, you go on a wait list, just like if it was a physical copy at the library, and you may have to get on a wait list for it. Then whenever your turn comes up, you'll get an email, and it's available for you to download. If you miss it, you just re-request it. And there's no overdue fees with digital resources, so it's always available to you. But that's just a quick overview. I'm going to go back over here. Let me stop share with that and go back to the presentation. And again, with that, I mean, there's all kinds of resources you can access. Some you can that are Charlotte Mecklenburg Library exclusives, some that you can access from anywhere within the state through NC Live. But I hope that these resources are helpful to you. Does any, and I will send the info packet to everybody um, in the chat window so that you have an access point for all of these. And it includes tip sheets on how to use these resources if you're more of a self-starter with that. So let me pull that up and give you that quickie link so that you have that for the info packet. Let's see here. And pull this up. And so I'm going to put this in the chat window now. So you should see it there. So that's the info packet from the library. And so you can click on that and it'll pull up a packet of resources and you can cherry pick which one of those you like. Um, and download those and view for later use if you like. Again, we hope that you would be so moved to get an out of county card if you're not inside of Mecklenburg County. If you're inside of Mecklenburg County and you haven't gotten a card yet, it's free. All you need to do is bring a photo ID and proof of your Mecklenburg County address, and you've got a card. No charge. Anybody have any questions?
All right. Well, why my camera ain't going back on?
Uh-oh. I think there's a little bit of lag going on.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, yeah, it's
Well,
so
I'm
slowly
here. I
loading.
just put it on camera because I'm sure you all didn't want to see me eating lunch. But I don't know why my camera. There he goes.
There it goes. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for coming here today. Hope you all learned a lot. Definitely get yourself a score mentor. And really, we wish you all the best of luck with all your endeavors and businesses. And hopefully we'll see you in some future classes as well. So have a great day, everybody. And like I said, I think SCORE does send out these decks. They send out the presentation and do your assessment and get yourself a mentor. And we'll hopefully see you guys next time. Good night.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
All right, bye-bye.